We got to reset this point here as we hit 9 o'clock on a Thursday post-election day morning on KCMO Talk Radio. When I talk about Vivek Ramaswamy, who had himself a strong debate last night, I'm not denying that for a second. I'm just simply asking you the question of when it comes to talking about Vivek Ramaswamy, who has a lot of the same ideas as Ron DeSantis, and Ron DeSantis, as the governor of Florida, has actually implemented a lot of those ideas, fighting the woke establishment in public schools, going after George Soros-funded prosecutors. If one guy's done it and the other guy just says he wants to do it, even if the other guy says it in a prettier manner, wouldn't you lean towards the guy who's done it? That's just the question I've got for you this morning on KCMO Talk Radio. And some of you are like, well, under that idea, we would have voted for Jeb Bush over Trump because Trump wasn't a politician back in 2015. No. Here's the difference. Trump was saying things that nobody else at the time was saying about the wall, about China, about our trade policies. Trump was saying things that nobody else in the party was even thinking about. That is much different than where we're at right now. The policies, everyone's kind of mostly on the same page, but some have a track record of doing it. Some are just saying it in a very pretty manner. It's a big difference. You cannot compare what I'm talking about between Vivek and DeSantis and think that it's in any way comparable to Bush and Trump back in 15. That being said, we'll get to you at 913-408-7710. I want to welcome on and say hello to Christian Watson. He is with Color Us United. They're an organization created to speak out against those who want to divide America. And he's a part of the Pensive Politics podcast. Also find him on YouTube. He joins us here on KCMO Talk Radio. Christian, good morning. Good to have you on in Kansas City. What was your big takeaway last night?
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having me on. Well, very simply, I think that my big takeaway was that American presidential political debates are not actually debates. They're glorified public speaking spectacles, which cater to the worst part of, I think, Americans' impulses when it comes to our understanding of policy. And I think this was quite on display several times during the debate, whether it be with Mike Pence's sort of emotional reaction to Vivek, talking about the fact that we are indeed in a national decline, because in a sense that we absolutely are. You cannot look at the state of America right now and say everything is hunky-dory, because it's not, whether it be Nikki Haley misrepresenting what Vivek said about Israel and foreign aid in general. I mean, we're just seeing the same thing that we have seen over the past 7, 8, 9, 10 years rehashed and brought up for people to see and take. And Vivek is really the only candidate, in my personal opinion, that's offering something even a little bit different. I heard your opening monologue there and said that all of them basically have the same ideas. I don't really agree. DeSantis has not said he wants to abolish the FBI. Vivek has. Haley wants to continue American foreign excursions around the world and continue now as the world's policeman. Vivek does not. There are some significant fundamental differences between the candidates on that stage, and their worldviews and the worldviews they represent, most importantly, are the major differences. And so we have to take that very seriously and understand that we have a sort of a distinction of worldviews here. On one hand, you have people that actually believe that America should follow its national self-interest. On the other hand, you have folks that believe that the UN, the Atlantic Council, and NATO should guide our self-interest. So that's my main takeaway from all that happened last night.
I'll give you the fact that there's no doubt this way of going about deciding presidents, it certainly seems like it's working less and less every cycle. I think that, a one-on-one debate is valuable, but throwing 8 to 12 people on a stage and saying, let's try to square this for the American people, I think it's good for TV. It's entertaining. But your point there, Christian, is that you don't think it does anything for the American electorate in trying to select a president?
Well, I don't think it does anything for anyone with a functioning brain, in my opinion, because those aren't really, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here, I'm really serious. Someone who studies history and studies philosophy and studies American politics, I'm offended by the level of ignorance that is displayed on these debate stages by people who have been in politics for almost their entire lives, who are professional politicians, who have been basically fed their prescripted lines by their consultants and people that think that Americans are so dumb that we're cats that want catnip. I'm just quite insulted. The fact that you can literally, Mike Pence can stand up on that stage and say, America is not in decline, you're confusing the government with the people. And It's like he hasn't looked at the past 4, 5, 6 years of what's happened in our country, from the destruction of womanhood to the destruction of children's innocence by trying to transition them with these predatory medicines, from the government trying to politicize certain processes that shouldn't be politicized, from the government quite literally serving the interests of the Ukrainians as opposed to the interests of Americans. Yes, America absolutely is in national decline, and we have to face that. We have to face that with as much vigor and ferocity as we can. But the fact that you get a politician who can tell people, don't believe your lying eyes, believe me, is absolutely insulting. I am offended. But in his establishment mainstream media frame, that kind of thinking is perfectly acceptable, and it makes sense. And that's the scary thing. Millions of people believe everything is just okay. So these debates don't actually help you. They degrade your mind by presenting you with catnip.
Christian Watson's joining us on KCMO Talk Radio, Pensive Politics podcast. Also find him on YouTube. He does a good job there. So, Christian, I got a minute here. Where do you think this all goes now moving forward?
Well, I think that Ramaswamy has momentum going forward. I think that I don't know if this debate makes or breaks anybody. I think it's going to wait till like the second debate, and as the time goes on, as it gets closer to the primaries. But this certainly did impact fundraising tonight, and probably the biggest people that won in terms of fundraising is Ramaswamy, and maybe DeSantis, most certainly Burgum. Burgum, I think, had a decent night. A lot of people have never even heard of him before, and he's doing actually quite well in terms of how he presented himself. Even though I'm not entirely agreeing with him, he presented himself in a very sensible way, so maybe his number will go up as well.
Hey, Christian, we appreciate you coming on here in Kansas City. Keep up the good work. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.